The thing about pain is, for me, it doesn't come in black or in darkness, it also comes in light. It comes from every angle, and the thing about pain is that it can hit you with the element of surprise. My name is Sadak Mirza. I'm a humanitarian aid worker. I work in several countries in the Middle East, including Jordan, Lebanon, Tanzania in Africa, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia. I was 22, turning 23 when I first joined and went onto the field. Working in a conflict zone or an area that's been torn apart by war is difficult, to say the least. There are times when you're worried about your own safety, where you're trying to be aware of your surroundings and realize that you're actually at your most vulnerable. But majority of the time, this is the furthest thing on your mind. You're more concerned with the refugees that you're meeting, with the situation that they're facing, and also just offering them some level of support. I genuinely believe that this line of work chose me. I grew up being very passionate about the rights of women and young girls, and seeing how young women or young girls from ethnicities such as mine were treated really compelled me to want to do more to make a difference. A humanitarian aid worker has to be empathetic, they have to be dedicated. I think they need to be able to relate to just about anybody and be able to look past the colour of their skin or the religious beliefs or anything really that can stop them from wanting to help them. The first time that I visited refugees that were affected by the Syrian conflict was in 2014. I was quite young and quite naive as well. I think what we need to understand and perhaps appreciate is that majority of these refugees were people just like us. Most of them were middle class, they had an education, they had professional jobs, they had families, they had homes, they were stable. Never, going back perhaps 12 or 15 years ago, would any of the Syrians have imagined that their land would be put through so much conflict. This could happen to any single one of us. We just need to constantly remind ourselves that it's not so black and white. I have so many stories of various refugees that I've met that have impacted my life and changed it forever. For one being Khalid. Khalid was a young 3-year-old boy, and we picked him up with a group of the children and their families to take them out for a fun day. The idea was that we would take them to this playground and they could actually just play and have fun, and maybe just for a few hours they could just be a normal child. Every child was having the best time of their life except Khalid. And then I went over and I kept trying to play with him and trying to get him to come out of his shell, and it just didn't work. So when I spoke to his grandma, she told us that Khalid was in the same home as his parents when he was bombed, and he saw his parents die in front of him. And since then, he just stopped talking. Khalid for me has been a symbol of the silent pain and suffering of so many children that have been caught up in this conflict. I feel that the media is incredibly selective about the picture that they want to paint to the world. Often it's focused on the politics or it's focused on statistics, and what that does is it strips away the identity of the people that is affected. It strips away the reality of what's happening on the ground. I hear messages of hope from the refugees every time that I see them. They live in so much hope that tomorrow will be better, and they live for this change. They live for equality. They live to have their rights fulfilled, to feel and taste freedom. The hardest thing that I've ever done was bury women and children that were affected by the Syrian crisis. In 2015, with the conflict ongoing, I found myself working in Lesvos with the refugees that were fleeing Turkey in their thousands. During that day, one of the brothers invited us to the funeral burial, a janaza of someone that passed away, and he asked for me to go inside and help put some clothes on this woman. So I walked in. Behind us, they shut the door of this room, and I realized that it wasn't a ward or intensive care unit. It was actually a coroner's office. And there was a metal bed in front of me, and there was a body right on top, covered. And in that moment, I lost my own senses. I couldn't comprehend where I was or what just happened. So I walked over to the table, and I realized that there was a black velvet type of dress, and there were black tights, and then there was a little necklace, and that necklace had a cross on it. So I picked it up and I felt it in my hand, and then I felt a bit of relief, because I was like, I can do this. I can do this. I can and I will prepare her body. So I walked over, and I remember washing her, and the hardest thing about this was just realizing how cold a body can be. And she had drowned, and she was cut up, and I remember feeling her legs and her stomach whilst I washed her, and the stitches. But I was just so numb and so emotional at the same time. I was in a war of my own. And I prepared her body, and I walked out, and I went around the corner, and I remember picking up my phone, and I just needed someone to talk to. So I rang my best friend. And for the next 10 minutes, what felt like a lifetime, I just cried. And I screamed down the phone just to let it all out. In the end, it doesn't matter if you're Muslim or Christian or Sikh. We're all humans. Our humanity extends beyond the colour of our skin and our faiths and our religious beliefs. In that moment when there is a need, I just feel that each and every single one of us just needs to step up and do what's right. Stand for what's right and fight for justice, not just for us and our loved ones and our people, but for everyone. Psychologically, I've had my struggles with some of the work that I've done. I've spent so much time trying to deal with the after consequences of being on the ground. I struggled to come back. To come home and then talk about food or the movies, or to talk about family or politics, I'll often sit there telling myself that I have to do this because this is apparently normal and what I do isn't. So I'll often sometimes find myself just being silent. But then there's a great deal of time where there's silence and everything hits me hard in the face. I'll remember the smell that I used to sense every morning outside the coroner's office in Greece. I remember the way my hands touched the bodies of the little girls that I buried. I remember the names and the faces of the people that I've met and their stories, and this just breaks me because so much of me still feels like it's there. And so much of these memories come to the forefront of my mind like this is happening now. If there's one message that I have for the world, I have one for the women that are on the front lines, that have given up so much of their life to work, to make impact, to empower others, to empower themselves. If I have one message for you, then that's to continue the work that you're doing for a world of equality and for a world of justice, and that this battle isn't theirs alone. This fight actually starts at home. It starts in our own communities, it starts in our societies, it starts in our countries, where we actually vocalize that equality is for everyone, that justice is for everyone. And this struggle starts small, but we hopefully will be making an impact globally. I'm hoping that my legacy will live on in the hearts of the people that I've met.